So, hello, YouTube. I never know exactly what I'm going to say. Actually, with most anything, I have like this general theme, and then I just kind of go with actually what comes to me. And so, what is coming to me today is what is going on in the world. So, today is the 12th of September 2020. And not a lot has really changed in the town that I live in, quite frankly, as far as we are still being required to wear masks to go into establishments. We are and it's just getting more and more divided, divided as a community. And and I and I don't really know what's going on, like generally, but I get information and I watched a video today, and the general of these theories that are a little bit outside of the norm are saying that this has been planned for years. For years. Like some of them going back to the 80s, some of them the early 90s. This plan of a new way of being on the planet globally, not just in the United States, but all over the planet. And so all these theories are coming out, and I'm I tend to be very Pollyanna in my thoughts. I believe that we create our reality. And so my personal reality is like this amazing space. It's like this amazing space of optimism and possibility and joy and freedom. And then sometimes I am looking around and I'm seeing the what is actually happening, and I'm quite not entirely sure what to do with it, except for the fact that I believe that we will get through this together. Together, we can go a lot further together if we band together. But what is ending up happening is that is that is that basically the way that it is that it is really us policing each other. So there's a lot of policing each other, and if you go in and you're not wearing a mask, people are glaring at you like at my farmer's market. I had been doing a live stream. I've been really, really in my own life, very, very um, about food. I've actually been this way for many, many years. But about a few years ago, I was really sick and I completely changed my diet. I did other things as well, but and the doctors had just sort of sent me home. It's like, well, you don't feel good, but so sorry for you. So I ended up completely changing my diet. And I also was noticing that, like, I was working in Phoenix at the time, which has, between 5 and 10 million people, estimate around maybe 7 million people. And I was wondering how they fed all these people. Like, how in the world do we feed all these people? And there were just fast food restaurants everywhere, which everybody kind of knows isn't really great food. Some of them are better than others, but it isn't really that great of food. And then there were also, the other thing I also noticed as I was driving around Phoenix was that there were healthcare signs everywhere for hospitals. There were, as if, and it is, the actuality is that these hospitals are businesses. And that when people are well, a lot of people don't get money. They don't get the money that they're wanting from from the healthcare business. It's a business. And so, so then you've got this like junk food. And then I was really doing this push for us to actually move toward the farmer's market. And so that's why I feel really conflicted about the fact that my farmer's market does not welcome me without a mask. I can walk around there and be controversial and go and push my will and go to the farmer's market and buy my things at the farmer's market, my food, but I don't feel welcome. And I believe that if I don't feel welcome, then I'm really not welcome. And what I have found is that I have tended over the years to lean a little bit more liberal than conservative. And what I'm finding is that my liberal friends have just jumped online with all of this hook, line, and sinker. They have just jumped on board that if you don't wear a mask, you are killing people. And you are being socially irresponsible. And this sense of, and then like in some circumstances, you can't even keep your job if you don't wear a mask and if you don't comply with their regulations regarding, like if you were to have signs of this virus, then you can't come back to work unless you've gotten a test and tested negative. And in the town that I live in, it was not easy throughout all of this to even get a test. So some people were just out of work because of various reasons, but your livelihood or your ability to buy food would be, and then when you're even trying to go buy food, you have to wear a mask, and they're very gracious and say, oh, well, here's a mask, you can wear it. And I also have been told, I'll go do the shopping for you and I'll bring it to you outside. So basically I'm not welcome. And so I went like, my money's welcome, I guess, but I'm not. So anyway, and then I've been following this person. I actually found her on my Twitter feed, and I thought she was absolutely fascinating to me because she was trying to board an airplane without a mask on, and the airline refused to allow her on the airplane without a mask. And I guess that I have an extremely liberal feed because they were putting her on as a negative. But I was like, who is this woman? And that is Peggy Hall of Healthy America. And I absolutely fell in love with this woman. She is very, very brave. And so I looked her up, and I've been watching her content, and I find her to be really, really fascinating. And she had talked about something that I have been wondering about. And I've actually been sort of seeing that there are some establishments that do not require a mask. So some require a mask, some don't require a mask. And like some of these guidelines are just utterly ridiculous. Honestly, they don't make any sense whatsoever. This live is partly brought on by the fact that last night my son, he absolutely loves to go out dancing. He loves to go out listening to live music, and he loves to dance. And last night he called me up in utter despair because he said he couldn't dance and that he felt like there wasn't enough room for him. I don't know what was said to him, but I went and picked him up and brought him home, and he has just been in despair at how much this has altered his life, that he can't even dance. And so some of the establishments in our town there have been some outdoor concerts that he has been able to attend where he's been able to dance. And this has been really great for him. My son is diagnosed autistic, And so I have like a very special like connection to exceptional people. And I actually want to call them exceptional because they're really, really amazing and gifted. It's sort of like a super power. Like they were born different. They were born different. And that's okay. I mean, we're all born different to a certain extent, but some people are a little bit more obviously different than others. And I feel like he is like a superhero. He is an amazing young man, and people stop me continuously to tell me how wonderful he is in our community and how many people actually just adore him, and when they see him, they feel better in life. So, okay, so I've got all kinds of stuff going on in my head. So I'm going to go back to Peggy Hall. So Peggy had put on one of her impromptu, I think it was a pretty impromptu side cafes that are actually in the street. And this is starting to happen in my town. I had actually come by one and I had taken a picture. It's really, really, really well made. It is an extremely well made fencing, but it is taking up, I'm not even entirely sure how many parking spots. These have been popping up all over our town. And I'm laughing because we already have parking issues and now we're going to be having less parking. Now, I really feel like in some ways these outdoor market, they remind me of Europe. I mean, different times I've had the opportunity to travel in my life and have been known to frequent outdoor eating establishments. I really like eating outdoors. I actually probably prefer it to eat indoors. However, this is so weird. It's just so weird. I don't know. These outdoor, and they are in the parking lot and they are in the line of cars. And it would be a lot easier to kill someone who is indeed eating out, in one of these street cafes than in other, if they were inside or even, in some kind of outdoor gated on the sidewalk type of thing. I don't know. It's just the weirdest stuff that's going on in the world. I've just got to say, like, just what I'm seeing. And so here's another thing that I think is super interesting about things that I've been seeing. I get advertisements a lot. And even as I've been going down and trying to unsubscribe to a number of these, a lot of times they don't unsubscribe me. And it almost seems as though the more I unsubscribe, the more I get. It's the weirdest thing. But anyway, I've been getting these like subscriptions, these advertisements about these. When you use your credit card at these establishments, you will get rewarded. So when you use your credit card at Amazon, you get money back. When you use your card at Walmart, you get money back, and Target, which I am admittedly a Target shopper. So it just sort of seems to me that perhaps we are being funneled into this spending our money and in this collaboration between credit card companies, banks, and other types of financial institutions into shopping at certain places. And so we're rewarded at those places and not at your average, your family owned businesses. I don't know. I just think it's super interesting. a couple of years ago, I had this experience that I have written about a little bit more in depth that I've talked about on my YouTube station, but I had written about it in my book, Blonde Haired Girl, Mystical Summer. And there were events that took place in this that I write about in this book that are very, very pertinent to what is happening right at this moment in time. There had been a number of people who had suggested that what was happening to me was just simply I was being toyed with by basically computers or somebody behind my cell phone, my social media. Somebody was just playing with me. And you know what? I can concede to that to a certain degree. I can concede to that our cell phone is definitely listening to us. There's no doubt. I had something really weird happen recently. I've been getting a ton of advertising on my Instagram. I didn't used to get this much advertising, and then now all of a sudden, it seems like companies have realized that Instagram is a great way to sell their goods. And I had looked a couple of times on this one clothing brand, and I got a catalog in the mail. And I thought that was really strange. I was like, how did they get my address? How did they get my address? Like, it's one thing for them to send me advertisements on my Instagram or my Facebook or or YouTube or whatever. But to my personal address, I thought that was so strange. Because it's the only one that has come in years, besides magazines or catalogs that I have gotten normally for companies that I have normally purchased items from. So I thought that was really odd. So are they selling my actual personal information, my address? And I was a little concerned about that. But anyway, I just wanted to share that after the summer of 2018, I had these events that were happening. And that summer, they were happening like this stream, like this, it was like this constant, like these images, these numbers, these things were happening very, very rapidly. But they've really slowed down, but I still have them every day. And they are not all on my cell phone. So I have so many examples, but I could not find them in the time frame. I had put up that I was going to start this live stream at 10 o'clock today. And so I wasn't able to find some of them that were just so weird. So like, I'll give you an example. Like one day I was at work at one of my occupations, and I was going through emojis, and I was going through this Urban Outfitter emoji, and it had this Polaroid camera on the phone that my daughter actually had. And I was kind of bored one day, and so I sent her this emoji of this Polaroid camera, and then she wrote back immediately, Mom, that is so weird because I brought my Polaroid camera to work today, and it's the only day I've ever brought it. So like, I have these events happen all the time, like every day, like these weird, like I see triple digits, like, and in license plates. And like, if you think about, there is just no way that is not coming from something else. The fact that I see multiple triple digit license plates on a daily basis, or triple digits and things on a daily basis, there's just no way that Uh, but anyway, so yesterday I had a really, really strange one. So I was actually subbing at this school in the town that I live in that I worked at for about 6 months, and I absolutely love the school. I have a long history with it. Anyway, so I'm subbing, and they have this little kitchen in the kindergarten room, and I look over, and I'm like, are my eyes deceiving me? But they had um a a grocery list on their refrigerator with my birthday on it in 2019. From 2019, actually, that would have been like, I don't know, over a year ago when they didn't erase it. Isn't that weird? I mean, honestly, is that like a what, 364 to 1 chance that my birthday would be on the grocery list on the refrigerator? I get names like the other day I been at an occupation, and I looked at an order, and it had the name of somebody that I thought I knew, and then it was like the order was from where this person lives. And so I was talking to my daughter about it because she's the connection to that, and she says she doesn't think it was her, but it it was the weirdest thing that this order would come in with the same name or the same associated name from the same city that this person is living in. So I get these little messages from the universe like continuously, and it's not from my cell phone. So basically, what I'm trying to say is that is that I believe that there are higher, like, and I don't like to use the word higher, but I guess that I have to because I really, really feel like the consciousness or the wavelength of love is so much more powerful, and it just is overcoming of the negativity. And so trying to figure out how to band together instead of against each other, even though we're different. We're different. So, and then along with this idea, I was thinking about politics and how I'm not what I am seeing is in my liberal community is that they are following exactly in the direction of the way that these powers are wanting us to go, and that is just relinquishing our our power. Relinquishing our power, like to say, to like the fact that we can't go into an establishment without a mask on or go into a workplace without a mask on. And I'm not entirely sure. See, and I'm not sure what's going on with that, but I have heard from people that I trust who are actually medical doctors who have said repeatedly that these masks are not the answer. Us wearing these masks are not the answer. I do not believe that I would be one who would say that there's absolutely no virus. But I would be one who would say that the fear of the virus is the more dangerous thing. And I can't even imagine what children are thinking right now. I can't even imagine. I mean, can you imagine being like a little person, and you're looking out and all these people are taller than you and you can't see if they're smiling, if they're mad, they're sad, they're glad. You can't see their face. Like, it's like they're shielded from here down. I mean, you can see their eyes, but you can't read them. And it's like a really, really, really scary place, right? I mean, like, there's this deadly virus. Like, don't touch anyone, don't talk to anyone, don't, you know, everyone is a danger. I just honestly, I just can't even imagine. And that was something that had happened to me this week when I was driving, because I subbed for Thursday and Friday of this week. And on Thursday I was driving, and it's the first day in the place that I live at that they have allowed children to actually go physically into school. Has been this week. And they've done a really, really, so the half the students can go on Monday, and then the other half the students come on Tuesday, and then half the students come on Thursday, then half the students go on. Oh my gosh, it's just nuts. And then they are sitting like 6 feet apart at their desks. And they are required, if you are over 5 years old, you are required to wear a mask all the time. So I'm driving, and I've been one of these people, because I'm in the education field, and I've been one of these people that I have been, and my children have really largely been in alternative programs. I'm just going to say that, like charter schools or private schools, or, but they have done like high school at public schools. And so, but my children, have done really well in school. Well, I didn't understand at the time, but like yesterday or the other day when I was driving along, and I was right behind this bus. So I'm right behind this bus, and I just start to like cry all the way to school, to my subbing position. I'm like crying all the way to school, and I'm sitting there thinking about as much and as seemingly messed up our programs are. We learn how to read, and we learn how to write, and we learn how to add and subtract. We learn some amazing things at school. There are places in the world where children don't have the opportunity to go to school. And then like there's other things that are kind of nice about school, like, our children get away from us for a little bit. In all honesty, like, our children get a reprieve from being parents. And then they go, and a lot of times their teacher is actually really great. A lot of teachers are really, really amazing and do amazing things and go out of their way. They're working, like they get to school early, and then they're working into the night to lesson plan for the next day or grade or do whatever they're doing. And they actually provide a lot of their own funding, their own money to give, to have things in their classroom that they want to have. And so I was so sad, like just thinking about our education system is just blown up right now. It's just completely blown to smithereens. Like, you've got a lot of parents who are going to online school, which is great. But I can tell you, having taken college courses online, it really kind of sucked. I didn't like it that much. I really like being in a classroom with my fellow students and my professor. I like to be in person. I like to see who they are. I like to interact with the group in a classroom. And so us getting away from that and everything being, 10 feet apart, social distancing, they've got like tape on the ground, just like in the grocery stores, you got tape on the ground. I've been seeing actually that they have arrows. They have arrows now that like you're in a lane in a store, and you have to go this way and then this way, and it's just nuts. It's just nuts. It's just utter craziness. I just don't. And then as much as I had worked for years in early childhood, and I had worked in one capacity where I was coaching programs, childcare programs on quality, and part of that was health procedures, and they were really, really tricky. It was very, very challenging to have teachers and students in a classroom and everything to be perfectly sanitized all the time. Perfectly sanitized all the time. Like, and washing their hands, you know, and they got scored. Oh, you don't follow those anymore. I'm glad to hear that. Except I don't know if you've noticed, but like if you're in a grocery store and you don't stay socially distanced from somebody properly, they will turn around and stare at you. Like, back off. They get really, really mad. But anyway, so yes, those arrows in the stores. But so anyway, the cleanliness of it all, and having to, like, for example, like having to sanitize plates with bleach. And I think that bleach, like, I'm sitting here and I'm so like opposed to this, because, and then they say that the bleach actually dissipates as it dries. I hope it does. I hope it does. I don't know. I'm not a scientist who knows what happens to bleach when you dunk plates in it. I mean, it's not solid bleach, it has water in it as well, but it's bleach nonetheless. And bleach all over the toys and all over the desks and all over everything. So our students are coming in to the classroom, you know, in this very, very sterile environment. Oh my gosh, it's just wild. It is so wild right now. But getting back to when I had this when I had this experience that I read about in my book and that I experienced, it was my understanding that we were coming into a time on the planet of the possibility of living the lives that we wanted to live, of the possibility of the idea of heaven on earth or world peace. And I had come to the understanding that we are actually here for joy. We've been told otherwise. We've been told that we're here for suffering, to learn lessons, to lay out our karma, but I don't know that any of that is true. I think that we are here to experience what it's like to be here and to create the most amazing lives. As love being as the center of this, because when you love something, there's care involved, and you don't seek to harm other people. When you love them, you don't seek to harm them. Because somebody once asked me, if people were really free, I mean, how could people really be free? And would they not, you know, act on their instincts, and would there not be an increase in crime? And I don't, if people's motivations were out of love, then you wouldn't want to harm other people. So I think that would be, and Jesus talked about that, you know, that the 2 commandments were to love God and to love each other as you do yourself. And if we were to abide by those 2 commandments, we wouldn't be seeking to harm other people, because we don't seek to harm ourselves most of the time. So you can imagine my dismay when I had gotten these messages clear, and then this all starts happening. 2020 hits and the world just looks like literally it's ending. Like, and people are actually talking about the end times, and we've got a lot going on. We got all these fires going on in California and Oregon, and we have just all kinds of seemingly catastrophic things going on. Everything seems to be in chaos. And the thought that was coming to me today about that had to do with if they are the end times, or if that there comes a light on the badness. So the badness comes to life, like heinous acts, like, the stuff that is going down with these sex trafficking traffickers and these kidnapping of people, children mostly, into these hideous circumstances, and light is being shown on it. I've been hearing that there has been a number of arrests, I think in the US and in, I think, Australia. I'm not sure of other ones, but there have been arrests in these sex trafficking, and so things sometimes have to come to light. And it seems really ominous. But it reminds me of when I was in labor, when I've had children. And so when I was in labor, there was this time where my midwife said to me that it was going to get worse before it got better. And there was something about that that was really, really helpful to me personally. Because it sort of did get worse before it got better. But there was this better part to look forward to. And it makes me wonder if this really is the last hurrah before, it's like this is the storm before the calm. But I do believe, and I'm going to go back to my statement before, of trying to find a way for us to overlook our differences, because we're going to need to get through this together. So instead of glaring at the person who's not wearing a mask, like, I don't know, maybe having a conversation with them. What I've noticed is that, because I have been wearing a mask, which is something that Peggy Hall had talked about, that people are watching you. And so people are watching me. And I have been at times wearing a mask because I have not been wanting to fight that fight right at this point. And so I've been asking people who are not wearing a mask, I've been asking them like questions, like I said, and they have been very suspicious of me asking them a question. And I think the reason why is because they think that I am opposed to them not wearing a mask. And it's the opposite. I'm like asking them, and sometimes I've gone to the farmer's market and people who weren't wearing a mask, I've asked them, like, how did it go when you were at the market and you weren't wearing a mask? But I actually am in the camp of more so what I believe is coming is the vaccine. I am more so concerned about the vaccine, the thing that is coming. I called it in another one of my YouTubes, the Trojan horse. And I have been seeing this for many years because I have a child who is diagnosed autistic. I have wanted to have this conversation. And every time I try to have a meaningful conversation with somebody who is adamantly for vaccinations, it ends very badly. They are not willing to have any conversations about it. I am not necessarily an anti-vaxxer, which is what I've been called. I'm labeled an anti-vaxxer, a moron, stupid, all kinds of degrading things about me, because I am not just going to run out and get a vaccine. I'm not. I'm pretty thoughtful about these things. I mean, you do not know what they are injecting you with. They can tell you what they're injecting you with, but you don't know. And in fact, I think that I found, I think it was Dr. Buttar. Dr. Buttar is the one that I believe I got the information about that. I think it was Ronald Reagan who signed an order that pharmaceutical companies would not be able to be held liable for incidences that happen from these vaccines. And this is still the truth today. So if you take this COVID vaccine, you do not have any reprieve. If something happens to you, you have no reprieve. They cannot, they are protected. And so because the vaccination companies had actually told, I guess, the administration during Ronald Reagan's time, well, then we won't make any more vaccines. If you don't do this, we're not going to make any more vaccines. So Ronald Reagan was pushed against a wall and ended up signing this order. And then I got something rather recent. I'm going to find it on my cell phone because I do a lot of screenshotting on my cell phone. And I had seen something recently where, it's right here. This was put out by, I think, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And he had said, and you know what? You also have to take these things with a grain of salt. You never know, like with these quotes anymore, if that person actually said that. It's so sad. It's so sad, but it's the truth. But anyway, he had said that the CDC is not an independent agency. It's a vaccine company. The CDC owns over 40 vaccine patents. It sells about $4.6 billion of vaccines every year. And that was RFK Jr. This is and I'm going to read that again. So he said that the CDC is not an independent agency. It is a vaccine company. The CDC owns over 20 vaccine patents. It sells about $4.6 billion of vaccines every year. And so I had shared another, and I'm just going to share very, very briefly. I'm not going to get into a lengthy talk about this, but when I did vaccinate my children, I had incidences with the vaccines. My children had reactions to the vaccines. My oldest son, after he had his MMR, he ended up having his first seizure in December after his MMR. And not only that, he had both his chickenpox and his chickenpox booster, and still he got chickenpox. And I called the CDC, and they told me that, first of all, that happens. Oh, maybe you got a bad batch. They gave me all these things about it, but they said, well, maybe he has a better case of it. No, he didn't have a better case of it. My son had vaccines from head to toe. It was not a better case of chickenpox. Okay, and then my youngest son, who I was careful with, he has had some of his vaccinations. And there was a case of measles. There were measles coming to Arizona, which is the state I live in. And so I went, and people had told me, anyway, so I had gone to the health department where I was treated badly. I was treated not very well at my health department, which I think if you are pro-vaccination, it behooves you to be kind to people who are thoughtful about their children's health with regard to vaccinations. It is very unhelpful to treat them badly. Just saying that. But anyway, so I had taken my son to the health department to get a vaccine, and he got incredibly sick. He was about 11, 12 years old. He was out for 4 days with a very, very high fever, and he had measles all over his chest. I called the health department. You know, my son is really sick. Oh, yeah, that can happen. So I come into this with a little bit of suspicion, even, and I'm not necessarily an anti-vaxxer, but I would not take this vaccine because I believe that that is what it is about. And I do believe that there is something in it that is some kind of tracking device. And that is what I'm more concerned about than the mask. I think that the masks are the precursor to us taking this vaccine or not taking this vaccine, and us being denied even food if we don't take this vaccine. That's what I'm more concerned about. It's just getting us ready. Like all of a sudden, I mean, would you have ever believed that they could actually shut down the world the way they did? I mean, there's some countries that didn't shut down, but did you ever think they could just have some, like, you know, especially like London. London seemed like it was like a police state, where they would quarantine and everyone would be forbidden to go out. I guess they could do one errand a day, or they had 1 hour of outside time. I'm sorry, it just sounds so ludicrous to me. I'm sorry. 1 hour of outside time, and if you were there for 1 hour and 1 minute, you know, you were subject to being arrested, I think. But anyway, would you have ever dreamed in a million years that this would be accomplished? Just so interesting. But anyway, I'm going to go. I appreciate you, Max3719, for your comments. I'm going to upload this, but I wanted to suggest this as beginning times, and I may be talking about this even more. If the world is going to change, then why don't we create the world that we want to live in? Why don't we collectively figure out how to work together against whatever forces these are? Because I don't know that it's any of our actual governments, or else our governments have known about it and are conceding to it. I'm not really sure exactly what's going on, but I do know that we can collectively turn this around, but it requires us to find commonality, and to work together. Anyway, thank you. Appreciate you. Love you.